All right, so it's just me today. Dr. Ryan Goodkin, Director of Product Development from LiveGood. Lisa is not with me today, so I chose a topic that could really be a men's health related topic. That's what we're going to focus on today. But of course, obviously, women watching, this is, it could be for father, it could be uncle, it could be brother, it could be nephew, it could be son, it could be, friend, neighbor. And a lot of this actually pertains to will pertain to women as well, because most of the discussion around men's health will also have a lot to do with the sex hormones. So specifically testosterone, progesterone, estrogens, all those things. So it'll be a good topic. And I hope you guys can learn something, and I will be definitely paying attention to the comment section. So please type in any questions, comments as it relates to the topic today, and I'll do my best to get to them. Let's see. And also please guys, follow, the channel. That allows both two-way communication for both of us. So will help us reach you guys easier, and that way you guys can stay in touch and keep abreast of any changes, any things that we're doing and bringing to you guys, because there is a lot going on right now within LiveGood. There is so much cooking, not only from a product development side, but from a business strategy side too. So you'll see a couple different products. These two different products will kind of be the main highlight today, but we're really just going to talk a little bit about general societal things that are happening and why we think they might be happening. But the testosterone conversation, we have to start with testosterone, right? We're going to talk about growth hormone. We'll talk about testosterone, but the testosterone conversation is where we need to kind of start. People think as you age, testosterone levels plummet. That is really not the case. There's a gradual decline to roughly the age of 60. It's like 0.2 to 4% or something a year. It's not significant. There is a significant drop across society, though, because I think a lot of the environmental and lifestyle factors, and we'll get into that a little bit too. But the testosterone is elevated. We're a unique species, in the way that we've evolved away from seasonal fluctuations of hormones. I would argue that men are more unstable than women when it comes to hormones, because women at least have a cycle, right? That's how a lot of mammals are that way. There's a cycle. Even males in different species, like deer, right? They go through the rut and high test, and then they drop those antlers and they drop. They go straight to beta mode. They do not keep testosterone levels high. The human, the Homo sapien, really evolved and has kept high T levels, and it has a lot to do with, I would think, evolutionary biology, but really reproductive cycle, reproducibility, right? Reproducibility. Anyway, being able to reproduce, it's kind of interesting because high T is also associated with a lot of raw and impulsive behavior. You'll also hear some crazy things like, the reptilian brain, and that's true. That's a raw, impulsive impulse. And that's just rooted in, and again, evolutionary biology. So for testosterone to be that high is actually a challenge. It's a difficult thing for men. And most men won't admit it. It's a blessing, of course, in many ways. It's a lot of reasons why some of the riskiest, hardest things, jobs and such are performed by men. I mean, it's a strength hormone, of course, but maybe not as much as you might think as we start talking about growth hormone. But that might become as a surprise to you, that the gradual decline in testosterone with age, but why does it accelerate in so many people? And I'm going to tell you the number one reason. You all are going to be able to guess this too, I'm pretty sure. Let me just make sure that audio is working. Everything's going well. Let's see. What's up, Pinky? Hi, Sue. Oh, Rice. Awesome. Sue says her husband is obsessed with Vitality. That's good. I'm going to tell you my experience with Vitality too. Let's see. Hey, Mike, Mr. Feinberg. Let's go. Let's go. I love this turnout. Thank you, guys. This is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I've got the one mic on here, not the other one. But you guys are going to guess the reason. You already know what I'm going to say. Why does our T actually drop so much if it's really biologically just a gradual decline until about the age of 60? It does accelerate beyond 60 into the 70s, though, and that might be where you would see most men sort of qualify more for TRT. But it's insulin resistance and obesity. It's a high BMI, body mass index. It's the inflammatory cascade that happens when you have that apple shape, when you have a lot of the visceral adipose tissue. They call it VAT. So that's just fat around the central organs. That is very inflammatory tissue. that ages you. It accelerates the aging. It causes a very metabolically unstable environment. So, it's like a bummer to just hear me say, oh, it's obesity. And like, if you are overweight, if you have a high BMI, you're like, oh God, I'm so tired of hearing that I need to lose weight. I get it. And I'm not, this talk today is not telling you how to lose weight, but you have to lose weight. We've got to get this vat off of our organs. We have to reduce it. We have to focus on lifestyle, and environmental factors are going to be just as important. So abstaining from, got to avoid some of the chemicals, the plastics, the BPA, there's just a lot of stuff that actually is endocrine disruptors. Remember, hormones are part of our endocrine cycle. So you got to be careful with these things that can mimic, and especially mimic the phytoestrogens, some of these estrogens that can really mimic estrogen too. So it could be kind of scary. So, all right, let's talk about men. So obviously that would be the one reason why you'd have an accelerated decline of testosterone, right? It's just obesity, metabolic dysfunction. There's others. There are others. And we'll talk about ways that you can mitigate that and supplements and things that your body can do. All right, let me just pull a couple of notes here that I make sure that we're talking about. Oh yeah, that's right. Another thing. So when you start looking at testosterone levels and the way they decline, another thing happens as you age. Your sex hormone binding globulin goes up. So there's an albumin or a protein in. You get a lab work done, you'll get a total testosterone value, and then you'll get a free testosterone value. Obviously, the free testosterone is much lower, and sometimes you don't even get it free. It's an estimated calculation anyway, but still, it's important to know. Well, that free testosterone, believe it or not, goes down as you age because more and more of this binding globulin increases. So unfortunately, and the free testosterone is what we want, what we need. That's the stuff that's circulating in your blood, really able to do the things that you want for testosterone. So that also is kind of an unfortunate coincidence or correlation with age. And we'll talk about some things that you can do and why vitality can actually be so important. And some of the other nutrients are so important because that will decrease your free testosterone as you age too. So something to keep in mind. Now, growth hormone, on the other hand, is one of the things that really starting by our third decade in our 30s, we lose a lot of it. I think they say about 50% every 7 to 10 years, growth hormone declines. That's really well documented. And that's unfortunate because growth hormone is, of course, what's going to be responsible for a lot of your muscle building, your lean muscle mass, keeping body fat at bay, keeping it in lean tissue. It's tough because, talking about, and one other thing I want to mention too is libido. So when I opened the call today and said our testosterones are just always running so high for men, right? They're just constantly high, perpetually high all year round. A great indicator of that is our libido. That was designed in a way for reproduction. And so men by nature have high libidos. And if that does not exist, then that's an indicator of something. There's actually a lot of clinicians out there that would say, if you present with a low libido or have no libido, that would be a sign that there's underlying issues going on, whether it's blood flow, whether it's heart related condition or issue. But it's something you definitely want to get absolutely addressed and looked at. So keep that in mind too. But going back to growth hormone, sorry, ping-ponging all over the place. The growth hormone is a decrease really because the pituitary gland, it pulses growth hormone release, and that amplitude just gets decreased over time. So as we age, the amplitude is coming down. So you're just not getting these big bursts of growth hormone. And so therefore, you're not really able to use the growth hormone as well, right? That's actually one of the reasons why some of the peptides have been so popular, especially the secretagogues, if you guys are ever heard of these. But I know peptides is a real trending topic. But there are a bunch of different peptides that fall into the secretagogue family. And what they do is they increase your pulse rate. So they'll tell your body to naturally release more growth hormone instead of replacing the growth hormone, because you could also do that. You could also go on growth hormone. You could also go on testosterone replacement therapy, TRT. But only time I would ever say to do that is under the guidance of a trained physician, someone that understands and knows hormone therapy real well. And while we're on that topic, I also really recommend you guys getting your lab values tested. If you are young or know anybody that's young, say 18 to 22 or in that range, start it then. So kind of like where you are in your peak optimal levels. Because remember, it is N of 1, it is you. So as you age, it'd be nice to be able to refer back to those numbers, right? So 20, 25, 30, 35, maybe at 30, 35, you start doing it a little more frequently, every 2 years, every 1 year. I'm every 1 year, believe it or not, almost every 6 months sometimes because I'm doing a lot of lab work. and it's very cheap. It's inexpensive. There are platforms out there now where you can just do it basically without having a doctor kind of relationship, but you still have to sign up for it. So one that comes to mind is Function Health, but you guys could definitely, ask questions. I'm sure you could find someone to help you with that. But it's definitely worthwhile getting tested. Have your labs checked. That is a very important point. Just looking down. I wanted to just look at comments before I get too far along. Ivan, what's up? Mr. Harris. It's funny. Jane says the vitality has helped my husband with his testosterone and cranky moods. He can definitely tell if he forgets to take it. What's interesting is about cranky moods, again, going back to that persistently elevated testosterone. That's the reptilian side of the brain, right? That's that fast, that impulsive, decision making, and if some of your neurotransmitters are not balanced properly, and you have sometimes it can just line up to create like a cranky mood. I'm telling you, women get the bad rap for having like these fluctuations and these swings. I'm going to argue that it's hard, just as hard, if not harder, on men because of these persistently high T. And for the women that take testosterone replacement therapy, which is pretty common, and for the right person in the right case, it's absolutely highly effective. You'd be surprised how much benefit they get, but they also do notice their mood can sometimes become a little more aggressive. All right, cool. Let's keep moving on. Reptilian brain. That's so funny that I brought that up, that impulsive raw behavior. We talked about the causes being obesity, BMI, insulin resistance, sarcopenia. So again, the people that are like more sedentary, that aren't moving, that aren't building muscle, that are whatever, sarcopenia is that low muscle mass condition, right? It's kind of like the skinny fat syndrome. A lot of negative consequences from that too. It might look like you're healthy on the outside, but on the inside potentially could have the same insulin resistance going on. And this is crazy too, sperm counts. So talking about reproductivity and men's health, the stat I read, I think it was like the 1970s to current day, sperm counts are down 50%. Now that number is nuanced. I think that that's not exactly like, oh, catastrophically, we're all going to be dead and die and wipe out the planet. No, I think there was some different values in the labs. I think they were measuring things maybe slightly different, but either way, there definitely is a decline in sperm count, in mean, average, and total, I think. But there's definitely a decline. Again, it's speculative because there's no way to say exactly for sure what's causing, but obesity, high BMI, right? That is for sure. Environmental exposures probably is right second, so it all plays together, right? It all plays together. And that's the kind of stuff that we just got to bring awareness to it, and look, you're not going to lose weight in a week or a month, but like over time, done the right way, you definitely will. So, all right. So we talked about testosterone. We talked about growth hormone. We talked about sperm counts. We talked about libido. I said libido is an interesting one because you just, basically men are just horny all the time, right? It's like, the men heat up like a microwave, right? Like you get hot like a microwave. But women is like an oven, right? It just takes time. With men, it's just different. It's such a, I'm telling you, it's a battle. It's an interesting thing for men on how you have to approach modern society, I guess you could say. So, all right. Well, today we're going to talk about some of the multivitamin for men and the vitality, because basic nutrients and minerals are going to play an important role, and you're going to hear a little bit about that today. But as we definitely move through our 30s and 40s and 50s, even if we're not, even if you have normal levels, you're still going to notice that lower muscle count. You're going to have probably not as much energy. You're going to have difficulty sleeping. Stress management, believe it or not, becomes a little bit more challenging. Libido is the one that I keep highlighting. Hair loss, different hormonal shifts, things that are happening. Different things like that. So I don't think it's fair just to say it's just because you're aging. I mean, that's definitely, I suppose that's the reason, obviously with age. But I feel like we're accelerating that, like just our modern ways. So that's kind of what I'm trying to call attention to, is how do we mitigate that process? How do we slow it down? How do we get it to work maybe a little bit more in our favor? Like is really the goal. I hate when I feel crummy, like those days where you just didn't sleep good or you feel like just off, and I feel like if you're overweight, if you're obese, you probably feel like that more often than not. And I just can't imagine, and like, so I really want to like help y'all. Like that's kind of the mission here, right? We want to make sure that we're able to help you. And not to mention doing these things not only will make you kind of feel better and look better, but it's going to slow down it'll lower the incidence of chronic disease, right? So once you get into that sort of category, your hormones and your sex life are going to be impacted pretty quickly. And that's going to suck. Like nobody wants to have a non-existent sex life. It's just not, we weren't designed for that. But then you're going to start worrying about having like heart disease, right? So you're going to have high blood pressure, prolonged high blood pressure, which leads to heart disease, stroke or heart attack, crazy stuff, high cholesterol. You start talking about diabetes, right? Because you've been insulin resistant for a while. Then it leads to the other stuff, the scary stuff, the cancers, the neurodegenerative stuff, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And, once you get to those advanced stages, you're kind of stuck in a way. I mean, there's definitely some lifestyle stuff you can do to improve your day to day, but I don't think you can ever really truly reverse that advanced stage stuff because, that stuff's been working for 15 plus years, 20 years. Your body's been inflamed and out of balance for, almost a couple of decades, they estimate, so it's really important that we have an awareness around this. And even if you're one of those folks right now that are sitting there going kind of in an advanced stage, you know what, that's fine. But now's the time to share the wealth, share the wealth of information, share the knowledge that you have. And then that way you can help positively impact someone else's life, as well. So early intervention is always key, always key. I just made some notes here. I just want to go down so that way I don't miss anything. Definitely, it's funny. I was talking to Lisa this morning. She loves kind of preparing for these calls, and I don't usually prepare as much. I sort of just wing it. And so I said today, I told her I'd prepare a little bit with her so I didn't stumble through it too much because she's so good at these. She's gotten really good at these calls. It's really cool. Anyway, so let's talk about the vitamins, though. We do want to make sure that you understand why the vitamins are so important. The minerals and the vitamins are essential to the body. These metabolic functions will not function properly if they don't have the vitamins or minerals, right? They're essential. So the body doesn't make them. You have to supply them. So you supply them through your diet, all right? And if you don't get them through your diet, you need to get them through a supplement. That's sort of why we always recommend supplement to a diet. I don't know anybody eating a perfect diet. I mean, I eat really freaking well. Lisa's really good, dialed in with her nutrition and her food. And still to this day, our micronutrient test will come back showing some deficiencies or different, things that we need to address. So I'm telling you, it's really important to get your minerals and your vitamins in your essentials for sure. And because if your body doesn't have them, what will end up happening is it'll break down tissue to free up some minerals, right? Like magnesium is mostly stored in bone and muscle and in tissues and organs. So, if it's not enough circulating, then it's going to break that down. Same thing with amino acids. Like if you don't consume enough protein and your body needs to make some hormones, it needs to make some neurotransmitters or some enzymes or something, it's going to break down that tissue, right? Well, I don't know anybody that can afford to just have tissue breaking down all the time to free up, essential vitamins and minerals. So just think of it like that. Put that through the lens. If you have enough Bs, that's great. But we included Bs in here anyway. A lot of these vitamins are water soluble. There are 4 fat soluble vitamins to watch for, but that's A, D, E, and K. But we do D different, so don't worry about D and K. We've got that handled differently in our vitamin D3 with K2. So that's really the premise for vitamins, though, right? It's like that way the body does have the baseline, the fuel it needs, the ingredients it needs to bake, right? It's got to be able to make everything and put it together. And you want to stay building as long as you can. I know we break down, but you want to stay building. Now, especially when you add in, like, say you add in sickness or a surgery or something else, you're definitely going to, if you're definitely going to need extra vitamins and minerals. That's kind of why they say, like, oh, you take your antioxidants, your zinc and your vitamin C and stuff when you're sick. It's like, well, you should be doing that all the time anyway, right? There's no like, oh, just right now. No, I don't think that makes any sense, so. All right, guys, let's see here. Where are we? All right, let's talk about Vitality. I love the Vitality product. So here's my thing. When I started Vitality when I was formulating Vitality, I was trying to address my personal needs, right? And which were, I had low total T, so in the high 3s, like 300s. Remember, like the ranges are depending on the lab, but let's just call it 300 to 1100. I was on the low end of the normal range, which I'd never like to be there. I want to be on the optimal range on everything. But again, testosterone is sort of, hormone therapy for men, and the way men feel is a lot, and women too, but it's based on symptoms, right? It should be based on subjective data. How do you feel? How do you sleep? How often do you have sex? How's your energy? How's your muscle? Right? All those different things. And then lab review is certainly one part of that, but it's not the whole picture. So with me, I had this low end of normal, but I felt really great. I don't have any complaints, right? But I was like, well, what if I had a total T of 800? I mean, would that mean my brain would be even more clear? Would compute faster? Would that be that'd be awesome? Like, how do I do that? How do we get these numbers up? And so the other part of the conversation was your free testosterone. So my free was in the 60s, but it was pretty normal range. But I was like, oh, well, I want to increase that too. And so that's when we started looking at some of these ingredients. I mean, you believe it or not, and balancing estrogen too. So you want to be careful not to get estrogen dominant. You want to be careful not to have the estrogen symptoms in men either, right? You don't want to have, extra breast tissue, right? Because that can actually happen with men that have a lot of testosterone. It can metabolize into estrogen. So you want to be careful with that. So I looked at a lot of ingredients, really tried to balance it in a clinically efficacious way. And so I said, I want to take my blood work right before I start, and then I'm going to take my blood work every 90 days. And so that's what I did. And you want to believe it, the total testosterone went up by over 20%. I think it was 450. My free testosterone went up like a third or more, maybe it went up 50%. I can't remember exactly. I have to go back and look, but it's been a little while too. And it's been out a couple of years now. It was incredible. I mean, big changes, big changes just by using the supplement, right? And that's Tongkat Ali. I mean, we've got DIM. We have all these great ingredients in here that have got a lot of evidence, a lot of studies, and safe to use. And I think that's an important thing. You don't want to just jump at a certain product and, think that and potentially have some issues there. So you have Tongkat Ali, the horny goat wheat, fenugreek, tribulus, saw palmetto. We didn't talk about prostate today. Probably should, but I think I'm running out of time. So, yeah. And of course I added, like I said, a DIM, boron, both awesome ingredients. And those are my numbers. I mean, that's what happened with me. Now, did I get to the 800s? No, that's a false expectation. No way. That wouldn't even be a thing because it's not testosterone. Vitality is not a testosterone replacement therapy. You have to see a doctor for that. You have to be qualified for that. You have to realize it's a controlled substance. You have to take it and be measured and follow it up with. This was meant to be an at-home, give you a little bump, see if something works, how you feel, if you feel any different, help balance the hormones because that's part of it, right? Remember what I just said about the metabolism process. You want to ensure that you have high free, bump your total T, keep your estrogen and, kind of where you want it. And that's a good thing about this product. It will do that for you. So that was kind of what I was going after. I mean, that was my goal, and I think we accomplished it. I think a lot of men enjoy this product. But again, don't create false expectations. If you truly are in the gutter, right? If you have, again, in the 300s or 200s, but you feel terrible, if you have low energy and just low libido and just beat down all the time, your stress is out of control, then I certainly would definitely 100% get your blood work done, work with a physician, and look and see if you're a candidate. Get on some testosterone replacement therapy, do it right, block the estrogen only as needed. Really kind of dial it in. Preserve the testes if you're young, because you don't want to shut down the normal testicular production of testosterone. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to protect the testes. And the main thing is to not do super therapeutic dosing. I hate when I see these guys, they get on testosterone therapy and they just keep going higher and higher and higher. And their dosing is so high that the body just stops making it naturally. The endogenous production just shuts down because you're putting so much exogenous testosterone in your body. The body's like, I don't need it. They got so much of it. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous territory because then you potentially become irreversible, right? That's potentially where you get into the category that you just can't turn things around. So, all right, guys, I feel good about everything we covered. I was just looking for more questions. And I hope you guys got a lot out of this.